As a Christian, how do we look at Josh Duggar and the whole Duggar family situation?
Well, it's a difficult, very difficult case because on the one hand, we don't want to be seen as being judgmental. Jesus said, don't judge, and the same measure you judge, you'll be judged with. But we've really seen two sort of extremes in this case. You've seen people that sort of turned him into a hero of sorts. I mean, he confessed his sexual offenses, repented, turned his life over to Christ, and some have just blindly defended the family and Josh at the same time, which, in my opinion, is not appropriate. The second extreme that you find is that people are just like, well, we got to discount his whole repentance because he's a sex offender, and sex offenders can never change, and they scoff at any forgiveness that he might have actually received from his sisters or the victims in this case. And I understand that because it's a very tempting thing. When you look at people that are pedophiles, there's a 95% recidivism rate. There is no known effective counseling, psychological treatment for pedophiles. However, with juvenile offenders who get treatment, the recidivism rate is much, much less, like 13% likely to offend as an adult. The problem in this case is we really are not sure on the kind of treatment that he got. It's not really known that he was sent away to an effective treatment, and there are options for it. So it's a very, very difficult case, but we still have to make, on some levels, a judgment call. And for me, I would not be ready for him to babysit my children.
As a Christian, how do you reconcile that? How in Christianity you're taught that faith is paramount?
Well, absolutely. And on the one hand, we don't want to say that, God cannot save sex offenders or God cannot save Josh Duggar. We believe as Christians, and that's part of the narrative that's so tempting in the news story, is that, he's the prodigal son, the long-lost son who comes home, confesses his sins, and God forgives him. And yet, that's a narrative that we have to affirm as Christians, because if God cannot save him, no one can. If God cannot change Josh, no one can. So I do believe that God can change people. I do believe that people can change. But there has to be a way to make amends, true reconciliation. There has to be some counseling. There has to be some reparations on his end towards his sisters and the victim, in this case, the family friend. There has to be some amends, and those steps don't seem to have been taken in this case. And that's what's so disconcerting and troubling to me as a Christian and to others as Christians.
Now, I just want to mention your background. You have a master's in psychology, and you're also a pastor.
Yeah, master in divinity too. Yeah, master in theology. Yeah, so absolutely. So I have some background and understand what I'm talking about.
So personally, how do you look at this situation? Because you're also a father.
Yeah.
Right?
Right,
so
absolutely.
You have those three things. I mean, you want to talk about faith and believe and redemption, that people can't change.
Right.
And then you have the actual knowledge when it comes to psychology.
Sure.
And you're also a father.
Right.
So how are you personally looking at this?
Well, on the faith side, look, he can be changed. He can be redeemed. God still loves him. Jesus still died for him and his sins. On the faith side, he can be changed. However, on the psychology side of things, he needs to go through some steps and to get some treatment. And I don't think that's ever happened, which is very disconcerting, because if he has not changed, if he has not transformed, if he has not made amends, other than, gee, I'm sorry, the news and everyone found out and these police reports became public, then there is no, it's cheap grace. And that's an angle we can talk about. Cheap grace is, I forgive you and you haven't done anything to make amends. I forgive you and you've never said you're sorry. I forgive you and you have not bettered yourself. You have not tried to transform yourself. And so we don't want to be about cheap grace here. There's still a cost, and he has to pay that price. On the father side of things, I would not allow him unsupervised around my children. There would be a red flag. There always will be a red flag. When someone molests their own sisters, as a brother, I grew up with two older sisters. I wanted to protect them. I wanted to defend them. I wanted to stop them from dating weird guys like Nate that my sister dated. But, the reality is we don't want to in my mind, a healthy adolescent boy growing up does not want to touch or molest his sister. So there's a side of that is, frankly, repulsive as a father. So there would always be a red flag. I would not allow him to babysit my kids. I would not allow him around my children. Just being honest.
So no one's really talking about the victims.
Right.
In this situation, we're all talking about the image of the family and how
Yeah.
people see the Duggar and how that brand has sort of been tarnished, but not much attention has been given to
Yeah.
the victims, and I know that you wanted to talk about that too.
Yeah. What kind of counseling did these girls and the family friend get as a result of being inappropriately touched, molested? We don't know the level of that. The Duggar family says it was, he came to us crying as if he recognized he had done something wrong, and it was just, the dad said that he wasn't raped, but they weren't raped. But the reality is they need counseling too. They need help too. Their own brother, their own flesh and blood, has reached out and violated them in a way, took their innocence away. Hello, I mean, this is horrible. And frankly, if I was the husband or the guy that was dating these girls, it can influence their intimacy. It can influence their trust levels. It can influence things on a global scale. Sexual abuse can influence and dramatically alter people's lives. So they need some treatment too. And there's no comments about how we got the girls counseling or we got the girls treatment or we got the girls therapy, which to me, this is one of the ways the Duggar family failed them.
You just said something that leads into my next question. As a professional, how do you think the parents handled the situation, knowing what we know or knowing what they've all admitted to?
Well, I can't applaud their behavior. I cannot applaud it. I cannot say that I think they handled it well. I think the best thing they did, let's start there, was they, after the third offense was finally confessed to, they did get him out of the home for 4 months, which at least physically removing him from the situation was healthy. However, we don't really know what kind of treatment. There's been, back and forth on what kind of treatment he had. Some people say he went to work for construction with a mentor. That's not, he needed to be in a residential treatment program for juvenile sex offenders. They have them. They're well documented. They're even effective. It's more effective when he's a juvenile than when he's fully formed as an adult. So in that sense, I think they failed. And they also failed in the sense that they did not, as far as we know, get any counseling for the girls or the family friend. So in that case, and there appears to be, we only reported this when we realized it was going to come out in the news. So to me, and the other angle that you have to look at here is they're getting paid to do these episodes. And so there's a financial constraint and concern that they're obviously, they're making money off these episodes as a family. And with 19 kids, you need to make money. So to me, there's a lot of, and TLC has, pulled the show temporarily. They're not sure if they're going to suspend it. So to me, there's financial angles here. I think they failed. I think they should have gotten help for their daughters. I think they should have gotten help for their son. And on the other hand, I feel for them. I mean, I think that they were dealing with a situation that no parent would ever want to deal with. And I'm sure that, as the mom said, they felt like a failure.